Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 2024 Ascension Parish Council meeting. Call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask Mr. Joseph, please lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Bow our head. Dear Lord, bless this great country, bless this great state, bless this great parish. Also, bless all the members on this board, make the right decision. And most of all, bless all the armed forces of service that give us the freedom we have today. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Item number 2, roll call. Ms. Secretary, everyone is present except for Mr. Robert. Chair's addition, the chair has no additions tonight. I do appreciate everyone accommodating us on our little schedule change for moving the meeting from last Thursday to tonight. Item number 4, public comment sign-in period. If anybody would like to speak on any of the agenda items, please come see Ms. McKee over here. She has the red and green cards, fill it out. Whenever we get to that agenda item, you have 3 minutes at the podium to speak on that item. Number 5, the parish president report. So President Quintmall, he let me know earlier, so he's got hung up. He's with Senator Cassidy, a meeting and traffic and whatnot. So I believe Mr. Compton and Ms. Kaysen in some form or fashion are going to fill in for us.
That's correct.
Right.
So since our last council meeting, we held Youth Fest on August 3rd in Donaldsonville at the WAG Center. It was a tremendous success with 328 adults and 571 children registered at the event. Again, thank you to CF Industries, Shell, and all of our sponsors who helped make this event successful for our young people on the West Bank. On Friday, August 30th, Ascension Parish Government will sponsor the Sock Hop at Lamar Dixon. The theme is Game Day. We look forward to another successful event. Dennis, this one's for you. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Compton. All right, agenda item number 6, the consent agenda. Ms. McKee, if you will, please.
Adoption of July 18th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes. Adoption of August 1st, 24 regular council meeting minutes. Resolution to authorize the administrator of the parish Section 8 program, Roberto Macedo and Associates, to prepare said plan and to schedule a public hearing to obtain Ascension Parish citizens' input as required by HUD, and to authorize the parish president to execute the required documents associated with the 25 through 29 Section 8 5-year plan. Amendment of project list for projects to be completed using American Rescue Plan Act funds. Approval of donation to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank in the amount of $2,500 to provide the equivalent of up to 7,500 meals to the hungry at no cost to the member agencies in Ascension Parish. Approval of amendment number 1 to the professional services contract with Joey Thibodeau's Drain Cleaning and Plumbing to add an additional $100,000 for maintenance repairs for a new total not to exceed amount of $175,000. Approval of cooperative endeavor agreement with Impact Sports Gonzalez to provide compensation for officials used in the conduction of baseball for a total not to exceed amount of $80,000. Approval of amendment number 1 to the master contract with Delcon LLC for electrical maintenance and repair to parish facilities and to extend the contract through October 5th, 25. This amendment is also to revise a section in Exhibit A. This does not affect the original contract price of not to exceed $150,000. Approval to enter into contract with ADT Commercial to maintain existing fire alarms and security alarms at government facilities in Ascension Parish. Total contract amount not to exceed $63,120. Approval of renewal of master services contract with Waste Management of Louisiana for parish-wide dumpster rentals for a total not to exceed amount of $165,000. Approval of amendment number 2 to the professional engineering support services contract with Quality Engineering and Surveying LLC for the Ascension Parish Courthouse East Green Infrastructure Improvements Project to extend the contract term through December 31st, 24. This amendment does not affect the contract not to exceed amount of $21,500. Approval of amendment number 4 to the professional services contract with ICE Sales and Service LLC for SCADA support, service, and maintenance to extend the original contract term to January 31st, 25. This amendment does not affect the contract not to exceed amount of $75,000. Approval of amendment number 1 to the professional services contract for professional engineering support services with Parish Engineering LLC to extend the contract term through December 31st, 24. This amendment only extends the term of the contract and does not affect the contract not to exceed amount of $12,000. Resolution 2024 through 2025 off-system bridge replacement program renewal. Approval of a cooperative endeavor agreement between Ascension Parish Government and State of Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development for the donation of 800 cubic yards of recycled asphalt concrete, and approval for Parish President Clint Quintmall to execute the CEA.
Thank you, Ms. McKee. At this time, would anyone like to remove any of the items from the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, I have a motion from Mr. Mason to move the consent agenda. A second from Ms. PT. Any objection? Hearing none, so move. All right. Item number 7, condemnation proceedings. 7A is at 40147 Germany Road, Gonzales. I understand Ms. Patrice had an emergency, so we're going to settle for Mr. Duplessis here to fill in. Second, a distant second.
So the first property, along with the second one on Germany Road, came before you about 2 or 3 meetings ago, and there were some questions about litigation. We researched it. Legal has a little more information, but it was succession, but it's going through succession in East Baton Rouge Parish. We did serve the executor notice, and legal gave us the go-ahead that we're good to proceed with the condemnation.
Okay, so before that, is there anyone here on behalf of the property at 40147 Germany Road? Okay, and before we vote, you good? Yeah, Mr. DePatie, we all good? Yes. Okay, so I do have a motion from Mr. Mason and a second by Mr. Vornado. Any objection? Hearing none, so move. 7B, also condemnation proceedings at 40159 Germany Road. Mr. Duplessis.
Yeah, so this is another structure on the same property. It was the same issue at the last meeting. We're just making sure we condemn both structures.
Motion to condemn by Mr. Mason. A second by Mr. Hillensbeck. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. And 7C, 17049 Charlie Brown Road in Prayville.
This address has been on our books since late 2021. We had issues serving the correct person. They had some litigation issues. All that's been clarified. The current owner has been notified. We have one structure to remove. We've been cutting the grass on this lot a couple of times, but we're just trying to remove the structure, and we're going to let it go back up in the woods. No structures left on the property. We've had a few complaints from the neighbor and the neighbors and people in the area.
All right, is there anyone here on behalf of the property, 17049 Charlie Brown Road? Anyone landowner? Okay. Motion condemned by Ms. Alonso, a second by Mr. Vornado. Any objection? Hearing none, so move.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. All right, moving on to 8A, general business, discussion of NWI sewer plant location. So, Not speaking, okay. So, let's see, so we have 2 people who signed cards. The first one is Ms. Juanita Favorite, who does not wish to speak, but is against, I'm assuming the previous location, right? Okay. You're not related to Mr. Larry, are you? Yes, I am. No. Spend some time with him. He was an ISSP teacher at Sonoma High. My boy. All right. So we do have another card filled out who does wish to speak, Miss Samantha Leach. Miss Samantha, you will have 3 minutes once you get there and start talking.
So on June 26th, during a direct testimony by Tom Pertwee of NWI, he made mention that 2 phases were being built to withstand the already and projected growth of Ascension Parish. He then, during our meeting on July 22nd at the Geismar Community Center, stated that there was only going to be 1 phase of the project built for the sewer treatment plant. Back on June 6th, also during that testimony, he said that the plant would be built in an industrial quarter of Ascension Parish, which would rid concerns of operating in residential or commercial areas. The location was selected by the Ascension Parish government, NWI, and engineers along Highway 75. Then when we were all there at the community center on July 22nd, they laid out a proposed location along Highway 30, which was less than a mile from Stony Point subdivision, as well as other neighboring subdivisions on Highway 73, and then coming around to Highway 74 as well, which was considered a light industrial area. Since that July 22nd meeting, we've gotten 475 residents sign a petition, both online and in paper, that I have with me today. The voices were heard, and on August 1st, NWI, along with the Ascension Parish government, released the joint statement saying that they were going to reconsider the location and move to what's considered a heavy industrial area. While it's a great positive direction move, we just want assurance from the government with NWI that the location that's chosen is actually going to be along Highway 75 in what is specifically considered a heavy industrial area. So tonight, we're just asking that a vote be proposed for the resolution by the council to then ensure that.
So we can't vote on anything tonight because there was no vote on the agenda? I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't know if you were done. I didn't
Yeah,
wanna-
no, you're fine.
But I will, so I have a list of comments that I was, gonna speak about, but at the same time, I don't want to cut you off.
Okay, no, I'm done.
Okay,
That was
okay.
it.
Look, and I know everyone is here for this, or if anyone else would like to speak, just let us know. I'm gonna just give like a few details, just kind of on the back end, right? In April of 2021, right, it was on the ballot to sell our sewer assets to NWI, right? And the reason that we needed to do that and wanted to do that, because at that time, NWI had roughly 20,000 customers in Ascension Parish. The parish only had 2,000 customers, right? We were really behind the eight ball, like the city of Gonzales, and if you think of municipalities who where the government, is providing these services. They started in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and unfortunately, the parish didn't, right? So there was no economic math equation that the parish was ever going to start this. And we tried for, Mr. Joseph, Ms. Turner, 18 months, a decade, but for 18 serious months, we tried to do a CEA, right, with the parish and NWI as partners. But there was always the monetary value of that if anything ever went south, the parish did not have $200 million to, actually pay for this thing, and NWI does and whatnot. So the only way, the only solution we could come up with was we proposed to them, say, hey, would you just want to buy our 2,000 customers, and we have a trunk line along Highway 42 and Highway 73, right? And that's where that stage one, right? It's going to go all the way from 44 to 42. It's going to go west, airline, and straight down 73 towards the river. And so we had those pipes in the ground from the Highway 42 and 73 road improvements over the last decade. We were never going to have the funds to actually do that. And so we did. We got it appraised. It come back at $9.26 million, and we agreed on that, and we brought it to the ballot. There's one thing so you made the statement, NWI and the parish. So the parish is no longer a party.
I was speaking, I guess, on the joint release that y'all had, the press release on August 1st.
Gotcha.
That part of it.
Gotcha.
Stating
But that was President Quintmore, he unfortunately he's detained with some of our legislators. But so we're no longer a party in the sewer business on the east side. We do still own sewer customers in Donaldsonville.
Right.
We are no longer a party on the East Bank. And so while I understood 400 something, 500 of y'all, right? I mean, and we all got a bunch of calls and emails. I understand the frustration in the situation that did exist. NWI, a private company, was buying a private piece of land, right, in doing what they had to do. We have no legal bound to stop a private company from lawfully and legally using their property. That would, like on a simplistic basis, if the dollar store bought some property on 73, but the neighborhood next to it didn't want the dollar store there, right? We can't just stop the dollar store from going there. They bought the property. If the zoning is right, the only thing that we can, that we have control over is if the property is not already properly zoned, because this body is the only persons who can rezone a property in the parish.
Correct.
Right, and so in that instance, the light industrial with the sewer plant. Now, with all of that being said, back in, I'm ballparking late May, early June, NWI reached out to myself, they reached out to Councilman Turner and the parish president, say, look, we just want to, kind of fill y'all out. This is the property that we really like, we're looking at right now. And the first thing Mr. Turner did was he reached out to everybody, had a community meeting, and that obviously didn't go well. Nobody was really happy, right? And then I believe the citizens kind of had a second one that, that y'all put on and facilitated. And from those events, NWI on their own decided, in which Mr. Ben Hunter with NWI, he gave me a call today because he's like, look, I know y'all had the discussion, and he's like, we want to reiterate that we have no intention of moving forward with that property. We want to be good neighbors. We don't want all these people to be upset with us. We are going to do everything within our power to get on the south side of Highway 30, along the plants or somewhere. That was NWI's representation as late as like 3:30 today. He gave me a call. So, look, I mean, I give y'all kudos. Y'all, didn't want it right there at the house. By your homes, and NWI heard, so I'm really appreciative that they understood y'all's concerns, and they want to do better, and we're not they want to find a better location that suits everyone and whatnot, and really Mr. Turner. So I know, look, Travis has had a go at this the last 2 months. Like he is, I know, I can't tell you how many dozens of y'all I'm sure has talked to him. And he has voiced his concerns, to his colleagues, to administration, NWI, and all that stuff. And so, I really find it was, a group effort, right? And so as far as we know, is that property is no longer on the table.
Right, so then in regards, I guess, to the joint press release, that was the statement saying that NWI, along with Ascension Parish government, we're gonna work together to find a suitable location. So I understand what you're saying, like NWI is a private entity, but then I'm just speaking, I guess, on what Clint then released, saying that and I wish he was here to speak to it. It's a little disheartening that he's not to speak for himself for it, but then I guess in what aspect does he have for y'all working together? I assume it's everyone in NWI working together to find the land. So when he says the government, like who is he specifically?
So in that letter, he
Calling the
was speaking for himself in his office as the parish president, not, as the government and or the council. But I can tell you that, us 11 council members and
Do y'all have the ability to vote and approve that as well?
So,
No.
look, if they find a piece of property that is zoned for that right now, then legally, there's nothing we can do.
So as far as when you say what's defined as zoned, if it's a light industrial, at minimum, between medium industrial and heavy industrial, does the sewage plant not fall underneath medium industrial?
So I would have to
By
look at the
capacity.
zone or zoning between mixed use two, light industrial, heavy industrial, and medium industrial. I can't, spit them all off the top of my head, but the permits would have to go through of the parish, for the permitting. And, right, Mr. Eric Poche and his department. So we would verify that, that zoning is proper, right? That's no different than, if you buy a residential piece of property and you want to open up you want to build a strip mall, you can't do that. You won't get permits, and that won't be allowed. The same situation exists here.
Right.
I'm speaking in a general sense that if that property is 100%, zoned properly, and the private company buys it, that this body doesn't have any legal stance to stop them.
Okay, so who do we appeal to then if it's not considered the correct zoning for it?
So that would, we would reach out to, planning and zoning I would have to determine that.
Yeah, spot zoning's really been a thing that they've been frowned upon, so.
Yeah, our planning and zoning department, along with the permit office, they determine if the criteria of the structure and or project suits that zoning. Now, if they're looking at a piece of property that we know has to be rezoned, that decision comes here. Like, that's the final approval.
Okay, so you petition to them and then ask
Right.
for it to be considered and not,
Yeah.
The company will petition to get it rezoned.
Right.
speak against it, is the point, though.
No, NWI would have to come to us on this
Speak
agenda.
against, like,
Yes,
Right,
filing
that's right.
an interference for it to be rezoned then.
yes.
Yes. And I'm up here rambling. Ms. Turner, do you wanna, I'm not trying to steal your thunder.
I'm not gonna be long, you know, I'm trying to keep my words less than 100 words a meeting. But I do thank everybody that came back out, and this will show that y'all want the location of this plant to be put somewhere south of 75 and not near any homes, not even other homes.
Right.
Even though they have said that they're not gonna build it by Stony Point or right along 73. And we just wanna try to make sure that the location is gonna be south of 75 and near the plants and not near the homes. And, you know, we just gotta stay diligent and make sure NWI stays true to their promise. That was under 100 words, I think it was 50.
That's 50. And I will reiterate, like, Mr. Tom Pertwee and Mr. Ben Hunter, you know, after every single one of the community meetings, and then, like I said, as late as today, have reached out and like, look, you know, if they're upset about it, then we don't want to be there. We don't want them to be upset. We want to be somewhere to where nobody notices us. We want to, you know, have our treatment plan. We want to service them and whatnot. And their intention is to not have any, you know, any type of backlash or, you know, things like that. So, and since January 2020, you know, because I was heavily involved with, you know, with the sewer sale and whatnot. And I've never known Mr. Tom to go back on his word, right? Like he's given me, you know, his word that he doesn't want to be a bad neighbor.
Right, but then it's just multiple times, like in that testimony, I mean, finding that testimony and then seeing what he said and then what he presented to us in July even contradicted what he originally said. So finding that and going back, it's just we've lost trust in almost what he said. That's why we're just asking for the parish. I mean, we all live here, we moved here for a reason. You don't want it in your front yard coming from different subdivisions. We don't want it in our backyard. So that was the main thing. We get the project. We understand what it is, but we don't want it to be a nuisance to us where we've chosen to live as well. So we just want him to be true to his word, and we're just asking for your help to help ensure that that's what they're doing.
All right.
I know I sent the email, I think Blaine and to Travis both asking for that vote. So, I mean, just for y'all's help to do it. I mean, if it was anybody else's front backyard neighbor, you live there and this is what they were gonna put, I feel like y'all would be on the same side with it too.
Right. I mean, but I would say, I mean, actions speak loud, right? I mean, he heard y'all, they pulled the site, so let's give them some time and they're, so I know that they started meeting, you know, with representatives of industrial space all up and down and say, look, you know, we want to be over here by y'all, away from residential, and so I know they're putting forth a lot of effort. But I did get, you know, I'll repeat one more time, they got verification. As of right now, they've completely walked away from the proposed, you know, property close to the Stony Point.
Well, it's not just us, it's the other houses
Yeah.
along it too, which is, or the closer ones, but yeah, there's plenty of roads and houses.
Let's see, so I have been rambling. Ms. PT, you want to speak?
Hey, number one, thank you for getting up there. It's always not easy to do. I was up there myself a while back. Never easy to come and talk to a body about a thing. One thing I do want to reiterate here, guys, we want to work with you, okay? No doubt. Come to us in an email. I did not get to reply to your email.
Right.
I didn't get to, and I apologize. Usually I'm pretty good. However, saying that, if you need something or you are against something, and I'm not speaking for everybody here, but having conversations with them, they pretty much agree, we will fight it where we can. However, when we get into resolutions about telling a private company what they can and cannot do, we get into a spot where we get into a slippery slope. I don't want to get to a point where I can't allow a business, because of public outcry, I don't have any teeth. I mean, we can do a resolution, but it won't have any teeth. We won't be able to stop them. If they want to do it, there's nothing we can do. If they meet the standards of the zoning and the Public Service Commission is okay with it. They are a private utility company beholden to the Public Service Commission. So that's an important step also, and
Right.
designation. And it does give you another tool.
Right.
As needed. And I understand what you were talking about. I've read through all of it. I'm in the group on Facebook. So anybody that has a complaint, I'm reading them, every one of them, to try to get a better touch. However, again, I don't want to disappoint you in that, but I'm telling you where I am. I worry about too much government, to be honest. We want to serve you, but we don't want to overstep our legal bounds. You know, we don't want to, it is absolutely illegal to change zoning to stop someone from doing something. We cannot do it. And we've all researched it, believe me, especially with the phone calls and the emails. But understand, if you have an issue and they pick a new site and it's an issue, we'll do the same thing. We'll call community meetings, we'll sit everybody around, we'll hear what everybody has to say, and we will go to NWI again, and we will say, this is not gonna work. So I'll tell you that I will do that. I can promise you that. I can't speak for everyone, but most, I think, would agree with me. We do listen to our constituents.
Right. I will say, as far as calling the community meetings, I don't think that it was done in a way that it reached the appropriate amount of people in the appropriate amount of time. We knew nothing about the first meeting. It was one person sharing it to a group who knew someone else in our neighborhood who shared it to our group, who then it blew up out of there. That's the reason for the second meeting, is that no one knew. So as councilmen and as having women and having an area that you're over, do the residents who voted you into this too, do us a favor and put it out in not just your personal page where you're friends with everybody, but in a public service matter. Put it out in a more, I couldn't find anywhere except Travis's personal page where the first community meeting was held, and we're across the street from where it was held too. So I mean, had we known just the amount of people that then showed up, good or bad, whether it comes to this where it doesn't, I think that just is a service that you can do for the residents who live here, who vote, who have things to say about the different stuff. That's the least that could be done, if nothing else comes from this.
You good?
Good?
And thank y'all.
Would anyone else like to speak? I'll offer one last time. Yeah, come on. Go ahead, sir. I'll get you to fill it out
If you
after.
want to, yeah. You're good.
We like to keep them for the public record, you know, who you are and that you spoke. You can do it after.
Okay. My name is John DeVilliers, and my wife and I are currently building a house in Stony Point Estates. We're not residents of this parish at this time. We live in East Baton Rouge Parish. A couple years ago, we moved to Point Capee Parish, where we're currently living. And I express the same sentiments that Samantha and the others do. I have one question about, as I learned about some of the history, and I read a document that had Mr. Pertweet's statements that the project would be located off of Highway 75, River Road. And so my understanding is that was the basis for the vote that the parishioners voted for. So how does that not hold any water when he's trying to select a location for the sewer treatment plant?
The vote was strictly for the sale of our sewer assets.
Is that what it was? So
Right.
Pertwee didn't, none, the vote had no description of where it would be located, that Highway 75 location was part of it?
No,
No, okay.
no, sir. Highway 30 corridor, right, has always been the expectation. That's where industry is and whatnot. And this location obviously was on the wrong side of Highway 30. You know, kind of on the north side with some residential, you know, half mile to a mile away. You know, if they get on the south side of Highway 30 by the rest of the plants, I think, you know, that's going to be a better location.
Yeah, and he also cited Highway 75, which is River Road.
Right.
Which is on the other side of Highway 30.
Right. In an ideal world, that absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I had that question because I didn't know the answer. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Melissa. I live in Stony. I wanted to ask you specifically about the cooperative agreement that you have, or the parish had with NWI. I wanted to find out because at the June 22nd meeting, they said, different representatives said that NWI didn't have to submit plans for approval. So I'm wondering, do they not have to submit also plans for the zoning approval as well? Or was that not factual information?
I'm trying to follow. Can you say that one more time?
Representatives from NWI
Okay.
said that they did not have to submit their building plans for approval. I'm not
Right, if
sure
the-
they do.
Yeah, I mean, they gotta get a permit yeah, you can't build nothing anything in the parish without, getting permits and,
So they have
Right.
to submit their building plans for approval, and they also have to submit their plans for rezoning if necessary.
yes, ma'am, as far as I know, absolutely.
And that is not overridden by the cooperative agreement that they have with the parish.
So we do not have a cooperative endeavor agreement with them. The only living document we currently have is the franchise, agreement, which they pay the parish either 5% or $5 for every customer that they have. Yeah, I want to say it's 5%. I could be wrong. And we actually turn that revenue, that's going to be the first thing that ever supports Ascension Parish Recreation. So whatever franchise fees we get, that we get from NWI, right, that'll go to recreation. But there's no CEA. So we tried the CEA for years, which was going to be a triple P, a public-private partnership, but we just couldn't get it right. So we sold the assets, right? So they have all their customers, they have the sewer treatment plants, and they own the main trunk lines now on 42 and 73. But there's no CEA in place between us anymore.
So is that true, Mr. Turner?
If I'm not mistaken, I think DEQ has to approve the,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a whole different set of permits, so like it's several layers of permitting.
Yeah,
There's a
and-
write-up about a CEA in 2020 with them and Ascension Parish
So
Sewer.
that is the CEA that was negotiated for the better part of 18 months, which never came to fruition.
Okay.
Yes,
So they're a
ma'am.
private entity, they have to go through all the processes
Right,
for zoning, plan approval, everything.
right. And DEQ, I forget the actual rate, but I mean, they're gonna get, if they don't get daily visits from DEQ, I'd imagine it'd be, at least be weekly. Like, I mean, DEQ comes to my place of employment twice a week, right, and take samples and monitor our wastewater system. Wastewater and our potable water. So I would imagine it would be just as, as frequent at the treatment plant. But,
Thank you, I just wanted that clarification.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Last call. All right. Yep, yes, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
Good,
I'm
how are you?
Chris Thompson. I live along 73, right before you get to Stony Point, kind of neighboring to where they was gonna build a behind. I know most of my area is conservative, up to Stony Point. So my question is, what like, when I say conservative, what are the credentials for the area to be built in? Like, it's zoned conservative, but most of residential people that kind of live right there in that area. So my question is, does that even matter? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it kind of hurts. It hinders everybody that's right there. I mean, residential people, but conservative area. So it's like they didn't even take consideration into that fact. I know it's like light industrial behind it, but I mean, it's a lot of people that live right there.
Right. So my assumption would be at which point in time that property was zoned light industrial, that was all taken into account, right? Because at some point that property was not light industrial, right? It wasn't such an industrial corridor right there. I don't know exactly when. That definitely predates my time. When that property, I know they got some new structures there right now. But yeah, so like, I've only done a few. In my 4.5 years up here, I've only done, I'm gonna say maybe 5 or 6 rezone votes I've been a part of, because whenever rezone votes come, they're very stringent and tricky, right? And so a lot goes into it, and more times than not, you know, who's the neighbors is number one. You know, if you're impeding on other people's property and their quality of life.
Yeah.
But I wish I had a better answer for you on exactly when into it, but unfortunately I don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And I just want to state, you know, a lot of those people actually been there before those areas were
Right.
actually rezoned, and, you know, other businesses that were built right there.
But don't go nowhere. I think Mr. PT and Mr. Turner want.
So you're in conservation zoning, correct?
Right,
That's what you're telling me. Okay,
Right, I
wonderful. I
mean-
want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
There are several building codes involved with that, and I am not the master. There's a guy here that knows way more than I do. You'll forget more about zoning than I ever will. However, you know, that rule is based on what you can build, how many structures you can build in an acre or an area.
Right.
And, you know, not to completely exclude, but if we're talking about a sewer plant, let's talk about a treatment plant, right?
Right.
I don't see someone trying to build in a conservation area. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of wetlands mitigation. There's a lot of things that go into it. They'll never get a permit between you and me. I don't think DEQ ever permits something in the wetlands as far as a sanitary treatment system, outfall, whatever that may be. But when you talk about the zoning in your particular area, you are correct that there was a lot of zone changes in your area over the past 20 years.
Right.
You know, as far as what we allow and what we can do. But, you know, zoning for some people is a hindrance, but for your situation, it actually helps you. Because if you're in a conservation area, I built in a conservation area, okay? It's one house in 10 acres.
Right.
I built there because no one else wants it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to worry about a guy trying to build a subdivision right down the road from me. However, there are dangers with that, correct?
Right.
But if I ever try to do anything commercial, I wouldn't be allowed to, because the zoning isn't correct. So that's, I don't know if that answers your question, but it kind of gets you rolling in the right direction. And if you want to wait till after, we can talk about it some more. I'm good with that.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, to answer your question, it is very difficult to develop any commercial, anything in a conservation area.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, conservation is one dwelling per 5 acres, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So in you can't have more than one structure there in a 5 acre. I believe Mr. Turner wanted to respond to you as well.
Yes, we're just talking about the history as far as when it initially rezoned. I want to say it was around, they're saying 2010, 2011. It used to be transitional. Then they changed the zoning in that area. So that's when it changed.
Okay, well, there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, look,
I did have, no, Mr. Samantha, did you have the petition with you today? Can she submit it to the secretary?
if you hand the petition to Ms. McKee right here, she will enter it into the public record, and it'll be part of this meeting's official minutes forever. I believe Mr. Varner do. I believe we have one more. Are you good, Travis?
I have one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Travis.
And just for the inner residents, well, I know everybody that's here is a resident. I'm gonna give you my number, so if you have any questions, you can feel free to call me anytime. My number is 225-975-6895.
If you text him, he's gonna come back a green message because he doesn't have an iPhone. So be ready. Be ready. Oh, I'm not texting him. All right, Mr. Varner, you wanted to speak?
I just wanted to clarify, so for the zoning issues, like, if they submit for a rezone, the parishes, the precedent is basically frowned upon, as far as, spot zoning in a parish, so not to say 100% certain that it can happen, but, as far as precedent here in the last few years, the planning department, their application would go through the planning department first. They would review it, with internal folks, and then it would get a recommendation sent to us. So it's kind of a two-stage process, a review process. But just to give you a little bit of history, I mean, it was some folks on Highway 42 wanted to rezone from I think it used to be a bank, and they just wanted to make it into like a banquet center, and it was refused. So just something as simple as that, the folks showed up, and it didn't get approved. So spot zoning the past couple of years has been frowned upon. So again, not 100% certain, but that's just a precedent out there. So.
Oh, yeah, yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Brittany Prout, and I understand you were talking about the rezoning. So you're referring to, right now it's zoned as light industrial. And you were saying if it were to get changed to rezone to what?
Just any property in
Like,
general.
okay, so, and when you say light industrial, like you were saying, the sewer plant would have not been classified as light industrial, correct?
So
I don't know off the top of my head.
there's
Oh, there you go. I got
There's
you.
basically a chart in our zoning department that they
Okay.
follow. I don't know if they can get y'all a copy of it. It kind of breaks down apartments, condominiums, different things like that as far as what falls under. And then sometimes there's issues where there isn't a category for it, and they just, in some instances, they got to figure it out. So me personally, I don't know where it would fall. That's something for the zoning department through the administration as far as what exactly the classification needs to be for something like that. But again, if it has to be rezoned, it's a pretty slim chance that something, if it goes from medium industrial to light industrial, there's a higher chance that possibly you can get stuff like that rezoned. But if it goes from conservation to heavy industrial, that's a pretty big jump. And again, I think some of that, I think on the West Bank just went from conservation to heavy industrial. Not to say that don't happen either, but it's a very slim chance that happens in a spot zone situation. If it's a regional thing like Donaldsonville, then, then there are those changes. But just a spot zone, which is what that would be classified as, is.
Okay, because I was trying to understand, were you saying that they would want to change it to heavy industrial, or you guys were just saying that's just what it is? I guess a lot of us were just really confused about that, because since Stony Point wasn't there, and then it's now been there for about 5 years, it just was weird how the radius of that was gonna be so close. And how if it was light industrial right there, and then there was a possibility of a sewer plant going there, how did that neighborhood ever become a neighborhood of that status and that? How could you? I just don't understand how that could happen. How you could let houses, like $1 million houses in our parish, be built that close to that neighborhood? Because that was all in the plans, like how big the houses would be, how big the lots would be. So I'm just trying to understand how that happened. Since we're talking about zoning, how did it ever get to that point?
No, that's a good question. I don't.
Wait, I can actually answer this one.
Okay.
This is when I
Thank you.
first got on council. So it used to be a grocery store right there, like
Yes,
a corner
I do
grocery
remember.
store. And
Best
so,
lunches.
yeah, they had really good food at that
I heard a lot of
grocery
people were
store.
upset about that.
I used to walk there and get the newspaper every Sunday. But so when they when they were ready to sell the property, they actually wanted to get it zoned to build like 3 houses in an acre. So we fought against that because we wanted bigger lots and not as many homes put in that area there. So we dealt with the developers before they purchased the property to make sure that it had large lots, which in turn made larger homes. So that was around 2011, 2012 when that happened.
Okay.
I don't even think we started talking about the sewer maybe until 2015, 2016.
Okay.
So that's kind of the time frame of how that happened. But when the sewer plant was discussed, it was always south of Highway 30 and never on that side. It was always talked about in District 3. So at one point, they talked about a location close to, I want to say Robert Wilson Road, and that kind of got shut down as well. That was when the parish was talking about it in conjunction with, I can't remember what, it wasn't NWI at that point, but it was a different company. But that's how Stony Point came in.
Okay.
Because Stony Point almost didn't come either. So,
Yeah, I can understand because the parish is growing so fast. It's just that, because we are talking about zoning, I was just wondering how you would have a neighborhood like that, and you have this light industrial right next to it, and you're saying it can't be rezoned, and it seems like that would be a great reason for rezoning, having a neighborhood that was not originally there, because I don't know when that was put as light industrial. And I don't know where the conservative area is over there that you guys if you could clarify that too, that.
Conservation.
Or the sorry.
Yeah,
'Cause
conservation.
The conservation area, where was he, I just was wondering
When you
what.
pull up the map, whenever you see the
that's
trees.
That's almost, yeah.
Oh,
almost-
so like all the,
Almost everywhere except Stony Point. Yeah, almost everywhere except Stony
Gotcha.
Point.
okay, gotcha.
I would say if y'all go on the parish's website, and if you could scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, ascensionparish.net, right? And there's a maps icon right there, and you can click on there, and you go to zoning, and it's a pink, blue, purple, each color represents something, but you can look at all the different zoning throughout the parish.
I guess when you're just looking for a house or looking for a lot, you don't think that would happen to you. See that kind of stuff happen on the news, and you never thought that you yourself would be in that situation. So I thank you guys so much for answering our questions, but yes, thank you so much for your time and answering our questions and dealing with us. Because as a person, just a homeowner, we don't know all these things.
Right.
So it's just gets a
Look,
little.
I think I have some more answers for you, or comments for you. I'm turning on all kind of microphones back here. Everybody wants to talk to you.
Oh, okay.
So I think, as far as the zoning too, and Mr. Ricky can probably clarify, depending on the population and whatnot of different cities and whatnot, I mean, as your city expands and the population grows, so too does the industrial, sometimes the residential, and it goes both ways sometimes. So those zonings shift sometimes with the population growth and whatnot too. So, if you got a big population explosion, you're obviously gonna have an explosion of commercial properties and whatnot, and probably commercialized areas for subdivisions and whatnot too. So, if your population is decreasing, then, maybe conservation is gonna increase, So it's ever changing in a sense. But, yeah, spot zoning is just a case-by-case deal though.
Okay.
So.
All right.
And
Thank you.
One thing to add while you're there, sorry. We are, in my opinion, running out of developable land. So you're going to be, you guys are technically in an industrial buffer. That's zoned as a buffer.
Yeah, right across the street.
So understand that too. Like these facilities buy a lot of land to buffer.
Yeah.
And they'll never do anything with it, maybe. It depends on who owns it. But that's for their benefit, obviously. However, in my opinion, and what I see over the course of my life here is we're running out of valuable land which can be developed into residential that does not conflict with zoning, with some type of zoning. So keep that in mind as well. Like I said, I hate that, y'all had to go through this, but it's true. That residential is right up against the line. I think you have a small buffer zone, and then you're into light industrial. So anyway, I hope that answered your question. Sorry.
Oh, no, yeah, you're fine. I think it was just the type of business that was gonna go there.
Sure.
Nobody wants a sewer plant. Like, if it was something else, we probably wouldn't have had all this, but nobody wanted that. Right. But again, thank you.
Okay, we got one more. I like
Hey, how
Al
you doing?
Pacino and
Ray
Godfather
Graham.
3. I think I'm
Look,
out. You put me back in.
so I wasn't gonna speak, but since we got on zoning, I'm gonna tell you what was told to me. So I read, like you was talking about, heavy industrial, medium, on the website and what it also, it didn't seem like it fit. So I called zoning myself. I talked to Lance Brock. Lance told me, this is what he told me, that this facility will be allowed in any zone in Ascension Parish because it's public utility. That's what he told me, verbatim on the phone. Does that sound accurate to y'all?
I don't know for sure.
I don't know.
I've got to check. It's a private company. That's the difference.
It's a private company, but it's a utility. So it's like saying, like, you have to have a special zoning for light poles or telephone poles. You don't. They can go anywhere. They can go where they're needed. Like, my subdivision has a sewer treatment plant in it. Like, there's a little gated area in the back of my subdivision. That's my sewer treatment plant. There's no zoning. It's in a residential. There's no zoning for utilities. So technically, we can't really do anything. That's what I was going to mention that. I got it confirmed by Ricky before, because I'm pretty sure there's no zoning for utilities, right? Or like there's weird different rules for utilities, right?
That's correct. A water tower or water plant, a power plant, a transfer station. Those are all public utility. They're privately owned. We are not in the utility business, and they're allowed within any zoning category.
Thank you.
So how do we fight that?
Like you just did. Yeah, like you've done.
Public relations, y'all nailed it.
Right. But legally, I mean, so he's accurate. They can put it anywhere they want.
Legally, you
If they meet the permit standard, I guess, from DEQ. I don't,
Public Service Commission.
yeah. Public service.
The DEQ does permitting, but they can help y'all.
Correct.
Yeah. DEQ.
You guys have no say
No.
on zoning or permit?
No.
It's not a zoning board?
Anyway, something to think about.
Sir, can you state your name for the record?
Ray Graham.
Mr. Joseph?
Yeah. I was here when we first tried to do this thing all kind of ways, okay? And even with the government, we tried to put it in locations where we thought was the best location. And we had issues with it with DEQ, the Corps of Engineer, all this. It is real hard to get something like this here approved in certain area. So, I mean, once again, but it's all about the community. Do you want it or don't you want it? And y'all got involved with it, and you can see action, you know, y'all action came out with this result right now. They are looking at other locations. But this, it's really gonna be hard to put a sewage treatment plant in just about any neighborhood that have a community like you. So, you know, I shouldn't see a problem with this down the road because they're gonna look at it as close as they can to the river. And as long as community fight to stand up what they want, private company don't have a chance. So that's all I have to say.
Hey, how are you? Can you please state your name?
Chantal Einsel. So I think there's just a little bit of confusion, or maybe it's just I'm confused. So the proposed piece of land that they were considering, had that already been approved for permitting and zoning for them to purchase that site?
No, ma'am.
It had not. So it would have still needed to go through Ascension Parish zoning to be
Not
approved.
zoning.
Not zoning. It would have had to
Not
go to,
zoning.
that's where you're saying it would have to go to DEQ. It would have to go through planning and zoning to be permitted?
So we have permits, and so does DEQ for that, right? We have building permits, DEQ has the zoning permit?
Yeah, DEQ is a government body that permits them to operate.
Okay.
Right, they monitor them and so the design and or the treatment, you know, of the wastewater, like that all has to be approved by DEQ, their engineers and whatnot.
Right. But the site itself, so would Ascension Parish have any other approval that they would need to do
The site
before
that
it would have been purchased?
Like the site that they were looking at,
Correct.
no ma'am, they didn't need anything in the world from us to move forward.
So I
They
guess.
chose to leave the site.
So in that particular area that was considered light industrial, even though they do allow a clause for utilities, there's really nothing that Ascension Parish has any authority over, whether it's permitting, zoning, whatever. They don't really have any authority to not allow them to build a 3.5 million gallon a day wastewater treatment plant. And also, you know, with room to expand. So what we're asking the parish to help us do is, you know, either give some type of regulatory governance or help citizens not to have this, you know, directly in not just our backyard, but
no one's backyard. And if the only leg that we have to stand on, sounds like, would be like a DEQ permitting issue, that would really be our only legal leg to stand on, is that correct?
So I think the Louisiana Public Service Commission would also have to be
So,
involved as well.
We actually.
That's purely my assumption. I don't know that to be factual.
And I think we did meet with the PSC commissioner, who said that they really don't have any weight in terms of where they can have the facility placed. They just regulate rates and other kind of things, not necessarily where the facility is. So we really don't have, and Ascension Parish government doesn't have any say-so where this can go. So it could literally go anywhere. But I think what we voted for was for the sale of the assets, and we were told specifically through campaigns that were done, not only through NWI, but it was a parish government and NWI campaign, you know, for voters to vote for it. And I think had we known that it was going to be in someone's backyard, no one would have voted for this.
So it's not in anyone's backyard now. That was a proposed site that's no longer being
Correct.
thought about.
But for right now, and that's what our main concern is. Our concern is that for right now, you know, we've had some community pushback, and they have agreed. But what's going to happen in 2 months, 3 months from now, when there's a meeting that we didn't even know of, or there's a purchase agreement on a piece of property, or maybe it's already purchased by NWI, and then, you know, we really don't have any say. And now that we don't even have our parish council to be able to try to back us up, or at least try to work with NWI to not have this in anyone's backyard, or to maybe try to encourage NWI to find a piece of property where they said they were going to put it.
So they are communicating with us. Like I said, back in late May, early June, it was somewhere around Memorial Day-ish. You know, whenever they started considering that site, the first thing they did was reach out to me as chairperson, and Councilman Turner, his area, and the parish president. Like, first thing is, hey, here's a site we're looking at, let's get some feedback. And so I have no reason to believe that they won't, you know, continue that same path, especially after, you know, the backlash that they've gotten over this site. I don't think that they're going to be any less inclined to, you know, move further away from residential homes, not closer.
Okay.
But that's purely my assumption. But I do have Mr. Arsenault and Mr. Mason. I'm just turning all the mics on.
I was about to say, for some reason, my microphone's.
Yeah, I'm just turning all the mics on and.
Okay.
Please don't.
Except for yours.
I just have one quick question. I mean, so I was told that, I went to the second meeting and I sat in the back, and Travis, when he saw me, he's like, "What are you doing here? Your district's all the way over there." And I was like, "Yeah, I just wanted to watch." I like what, and this is honestly like, because if we do get approached by NWI, I think this board would love to know like what a good answer would be to give them is. So I understand that this was going to be like a quarter mile, half mile from the subdivision, correct? So what is a comfortable distance? Like how far, like what can we tell NWI if they come and say, okay, we found one, but it's a mile from a subdivision? Like what is it, like, in y'all's opinion, seriously, I'm not being facetious,
Well,
I really want to know.
I think that, you can go, but I think that if they, you know, stuck with their initial plan, the plan that they sold the Ascension Parish residents to vote on, that's what they sold us. They told us, as well as the parish government told us, that this site would have been located in the industrial corridor. You know, you can ride down Highway 30 and River Road, and you know what's industrial, and you know what's residential. You know what's heavy industrial, and you know what's light industrial. Everyone, you know, can see it. I don't think you know. And so that is where.
Well, there's also houses out there as well, though. There's also residential areas, technically still in the industrial core. I used to work out there, so I know, and Chase works out there. I mean, we all see them. There's houses out there, so, y'all, I really want, like, I'm generally wanting to know, like, is there a recommended distance that you guys are, like, think that, I mean, a mile, 2 miles from, like if there's, I mean, I know the industrial corridor is a large vague area, and if I'm representing NWI at some point, or, you know, if I was a lawyer for NWI or whatever, I'd say industrial corridor is very vague.
Yeah.
Like, Highway 30 corridor is very vague. So, like, is there, like, I know River Road, but there's houses on River Road as
Yes.
well, though. So,
Yes.
like, that's what I'm trying to understand, like, because if they ask me, they say, where do you think is a good spot? I'm gonna have trouble answering that. I'm gonna say River Road and Industrial Corridor, that's a large area.
So also, in all the work that we've also done a lot of research. For lack of better words, we've done some smell test research. Seriously, in all seriousness, we've done some research. We've seen studies on, you know, what would the smell be like? What does that do to the overall? It's not just the smell; it's just the overall quality of neighborhoods in that area.
I work at LSU. I drive by the one on Burbank every day.
Exactly.
I know what y'all talking about.
Comfortably, I think, would be a 2-mile radius away from, you know, heavy populated
Gotcha.
residential areas.
Thank you.
And I think that we are, whether you consider it fortunate or not fortunate, in Ascension Parish, where, you know, where they want to put this structure, I think that there is plenty of heavy industrial areas that they can look at, as opposed to, you know, having to drop it in the middle of downtown Baton Rouge. You know, that's not the structure of our parish, and we just feel like that there's definitely land that they can go to, so that it's not really affecting anyone.
Have they reached some of the local heavy industrial sites to see what those guys are willing to help with?
Yes. That's where they're at now. They haven't had any luck, but they, you know, that's their path they're taking. If you want to speak, will you please come to the microphone and state your name? We can't hear you from back there, and.
Sorry, my name's Jason Leach. Just bringing up to your point about location, there was at one point that some of those local heavy industrial facilities were willing to work with NWI.
So I've heard that for a very long time, and I've never spoken to a representative
I didn't
of
know
one
if
of those.
NWI has reached out to them to say, hey, I know those guys have a lot of land out there.
Yeah.
Closer to them, work some kind of
Right, they have.
situation that they can work with.
Right, and that's their buffer. They have all the land around the facilities because they don't want anyone close to them. So that's the obstacle that NWI is having, you know, to navigate now, is that they want to try to be in the buffer that the plants have built for themselves.
Okay.
So that's the strategy that they're taking now, is they're doing everything they can to reach out to everyone who is between Highway 30 and River Road, right? All that land down there, and they're trying to find a couple acres.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jason.
40 acres. 40 acres.
40 acres?
40 acres is what they need to build, what they said they were gonna build.
No, okay. Mr. Arsenault.
Yeah, I think the takeaway here is that we hear you. NWI has apparently heard you guys. And while there's no vote we can give you or legal stance that we can do, we want to work with you guys. We want to help beat that drum and support as we go forward to find the best solution. Now, whether that's the perfect solution, you know, time will tell, but we want to be partners with the community, and make sure that we get that message out. And they're listening, clearly. So I thank you guys for being here.
We got one more. All right, please state your name. I am getting fussed at via text because I'm not making y'all fill out cards.
Derek Alba.
You see that lady over there? Look, don't let the smile fool you. She is mean as a rattlesnake. State your name, please.
Derek Alba. I live
Okay.
in Dutchtown. Just a quick question. Is NWI under any obligation to communicate to the surrounding area when they choose a site?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I know they did it last time and it didn't work out so well for them. So as concerned citizens, we want to be sure that we're informed on future progress. And so we're just wondering, like, how do we keep up with what's going on?
They're not under legal obligation to say anything ahead of time. with their track record, have shown that they're at least gonna let us know when they're considering our site.
Okay. And to answer your question about the distance, I think, like you said, wherever they put it, it's probably going to affect residents. And if you look at, plants in Baton Rouge, right, there's some nice neighborhoods within a few miles. So, for me personally, I'm thinking, 3 to 5 miles would be a more comfortable buffer where I feel like we still might be affected in some way during some times of the day, but it's not going to, I guess, ruin the quality of life and property values where they had the previous proposal. So that's all. Thank you.
I do want to say too, I did talk to Mr. Pertwee about the Burbank plant, and I said that I think that's what we all have in our head. We go to LSU football games, something, and I drive it every day. We smell that. He said that is a public-owned utility, and that they don't really have any. What's the polite way to say it? They don't have any like. Yeah, like it's older too. He said there's going to be more modern, top of the line. I mean, I'm not justifying. That was what he told me, because that was the first thing I told him. I said, go drop down Burbank on a hot day. You'll see what they're complaining about. He goes, oh, I know. He's like, but that's a public utility. And they don't care if it goes defunct or if it's not maintained, because they get fined by the same money. It's all the public funds at the end of the day for them. And I was like, yeah, but still, like that's what they have in their head. And so he was trying to be empathetic about that, but he was explaining to me that there's new modern, smell thing, deterrence and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, I don't speak sewage, but he that's one of the things he kind of did assure me. But that's why I wanted to find out, like, even if it is, the brand new, model of the treatment plants, I still would like to know, if I can tell him, if we chat again about it, how far away. And so I agree, anywhere from 2 to 3 miles, I think is a reasonable expectation. And that's what I told him. But I mean, I want to hear what you guys think, because it's not going by my house in Prairieville. So that's why I wanted to know, just generally. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Ms. Lonzo.
What I would suggest is, I've heard a couple of people say something about if we know things before you know, and I would say we normally do not. So, I know. But what I would suggest is maybe y'all need to get a small committee together, or pick a couple of people and try to set up a line of communication with NWI. So then maybe you will get some quote-unquote insider information. You'll know what's going on.
And then tell us.
And then tell us, yes, great. Then tell us, so we'll all know. Okay? Thank you.
All right, before we go, so I would like to mention, I think Ascension Parish is only like 17, 18 miles wide and tall total. You're talking about a 5-mile buffer, no one's ever going to be happy. So I'm just throwing that out there. I could be wrong, but that's a long ways. But no, look, as soon as we get word from a next potential location, we'll work with administration and get them to post it on the Parish of Ascension Facebook page and all that stuff right there. So good job, y'all. Y'all stood up to the man. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, well, thank y'all. Y'all have a good night. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
No, we got more.
What else we got?
Transfer.
Oh, look at that. Boy, am I going to get fussed at after this meeting. It is not going to be good.
Mr. DeVilliers, can you hold back so I can talk to you after me?
All right, I'm sorry. So we're moving on to item 998, introduction of an ordinance to declare surplus and authorize the sale and/or transfer of miscellaneous movable equipment. Motion introduced by Mr. Mason. Motion adjourned by Mr. Turner. Second by Mr. Mason. We are adjourned.